Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Get ready for truth bombs, belly laughs, and the kind of accent that turns car into a two-syllable adventure. Here's your host, Sean.
The ayes are 60, the nays are 40. The bill as amended is passed. Under the previous order, the motion to reconsider is considered made and laid upon the table.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHI Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us. It is November 10th, 2025. It is 8 p.m. You know where you are. For those in the chat room already, I see Canada Heavy Haul. Welcome back, sir. Hope you're well. BZ's in there. Mike Pasqua's in there. The Phantom's in there. And if you want to be there, you go to youtube.com, search SHI Media, and click on the live stream, and then you can get right into the live chat. So, yeah, the Senate, this is kind of fun. The Senate voted to open the government. And now, as many of you may or may not know, it will go back to the House where they'll reconcile a few things. Mission Ready Men's in the chat. Mission Ready Men, good evening. And then once approved, it'll go to the president to sign, and the government will reopen. Could reopen as early as Wednesday. If Democrats in the House don't do something really dumb or whatever, but most likely will open Wednesday. It was a bipartisan Senate agreement. You had, what was it, eight Dems crossover. Who crossed over and voted yes? Dick Durbin, get to a video with him shortly. Tim Kaine, Virginia. Catherine Cortez Masto from Nevada. Fetterman from Pennsylvania, Shaheen, New Hampshire, Hassan, New Hampshire, Rosen, Nevada, and Angus King in Maine. What's kind of interesting is you'll notice outside of Dick Durbin and Illinois, everybody else is in a place where, yeah, they're always fighting for their job, right? It's none of those Dems are in, except for Dick Durbin, who's the whip, by the way. Tells you how thrilled he is about Chucky's leadership. But none of them are in solid red states, or rather solid blue states. They're in kind of purple states. New Hampshire can vote either side of the aisle. Nevada is threatening to go either side of the aisle. Virginia can go either side of the aisle. In Maine, he's an independent, Angus King. He caucuses with the Dems. But he's also in a state that can occasionally surprise you. I know they haven't recently, but they've done it before. Who voted no? Everyone expected Rand Paul. Rand Paul doing Rand Paul things. That's we don't have time for the whole show. And you know, not much was given up. That's what I think. What shocks me the most is not much was given up. I knew they were going to give up stuff. I just knew they had to. Whether I like it or not. So, but what they gave up actually makes sense, and I'll tell you why. Here's what they agreed to. Funding for the next year. So they're going to do the CR through the end of, the rest of the government opens up January 30th. Hold that date in your head. But for the next year through January 2026, what will get funded no matter what happens? Food aid programs, veterans programs, legislative branch funding, of course. Funding, and it'll reimburse states and federal workers impacted by the shutdown. What was not guaranteed, just lost, was no ACA extension. Kiwi, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Jersey Joe, thank you so much for joining us. I just saw your comment about Rand Paul, and it made me laugh because, like I said, it's the most Rand Paul reason in the world, right? ACA was not, there was nothing talked about or agreed upon with the ACA. There's no full year appropriations, only temporary funding. remaining year fiscal 2026 appropriations are now the next fight. People forget about that. Senate procedural issue still hasn't been resolved, i.e. the filibuster. Couple things to keep in mind. Two of the biggest emotional crybaby, look at us, or look at what we're trying to do for you points that outside of the ACA, the Democrats have been crying this whole time are the food aid programs and paying the military. And both of those are now taken care of until January 2026. That's two major pieces of leverage during the next fight, which is the actual appropriations for the actual budget, the one big beautiful bill, that they don't have. That's kind of huge. And look, when you have Dick Durbin, who's saying the quiet part out loud on the floor, and I have it, and I'm going to play it as soon as I can scroll down to it. But when you have Dick Durbin saying the quiet part out loud, this is, make no mistake about it. When I find it, here it is. And when
they think we should have kept our government closed.
This is Dick Durbin kind of slamming Chuck Schumer, which a lot of people did. I'll talk about that in the second segment, but watch this.
Many of my friends are unhappy. They think we should have kept our government closed indefinitely to protest the policies of the Trump administration. I share their opinions of this administration, but cannot accept a strategy which wages political battle at the expense of my neighbor's paycheck or the food for his children. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
So what Durbin did right there is admit two things. One, the shutdown was completely political. And two, he clearly was not happy about the shutdown. He voted with them and he stayed with them for a long time. And what were we up to? It closed October 1st. So what's that? 40 days, right? Or something like that. But when he says, I don't agree with keeping the government shut down because it hurts people, that means voters are calling him saying, hey, cut the shit. Stop with this closure. This is ridiculous. This is stupid. And he saw the light in the tunnel. Now, what Dick Durbin just said to the entire world is, I am not going to probably run with the progressives on every single thing, and I am going to stand alone. I took that as a major sign that he understands who controls that party now, which I'll get into in the second half. So the government's funded. Well, let me rephrase that. Government will be funded when the House is done and the president signs it. This all started last night late. And again, I thought it was going to come before the election. Once it didn't come before this last 2025, not a midterm thingy, then I said it's not going to be long because the Democrats were getting pressure. Look, the polling even showed the Democrats were getting the blame for it. And then you had a couple of senior Democrats and Democrats in general saying, well, this is the only leverage we have to get what we want, right? I'm going to fix this. Sorry about that. And that said to the American people, we're using you, air traffic controllers, federal employees, all of this as political leverage to get what we want out of a fiscal deal with the Republicans. We'll hold you hostage to get our way. And what do they want? They wanted extensions more than anything else for the Affordable Care Act. Funding that goes to illegals, we already know that. I wrote an op-ed, a couple of them, about the Obamacare, which is what it is, and how it was designed to implode on itself. And I said during the SNAP argument about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago in an article, a separate article, I said, look, the one thing Democrats are petrified of right now is exposing Obamacare as the absolute fraud that it is. Mike Pasker on the chat room, Durbin may be corrupt, but he ain't stupid. You are 100% correct, sir. We know by their actions that they don't realize as they blame the consequences. Can't spell, but you know what I mean. I do know what you mean, Phantom. Thank you. 04, welcome for being here. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you, Ingrate. as well. So yeah, what's going to happen now is we have the actual appropriations that takes place, right? And when the appropriations takes place, they're going to start breaking down fund. By the way, this hasn't happened since Clinton was in office. We haven't had a budget passed with appropriations the proper way, the way it's supposed to be passed. That alone should be an amazing accomplishment, because it hasn't happened since Clinton. 1992, I believe, was the last time. So it's going to go through appropriations. And the fact that they didn't even extend ACA for 3 months, 6 months, tells me, or even discuss it, tells me that they're getting ready to shit can Obamacare. Now, I could be wrong, but I think I did the math, and it was $727 billion that the federal government, I, taxpayers in this country, have dumped into Obamacare on a situation or on a program that was supposed to fund itself. Costs went up tremendously for your premiums, quality, type, the service, deductibles, all of that went through the floor. Co-pays went through the floor, went to shit. We all lost programs. We all started getting, I was paying $150 a month for a single. My kids were not on with me at the time. Or Obamacare, I didn't have any kids. But I was paying $150 a month for an individual for total coverage. Cadillac plan, I didn't even have co-pays. Now, I say this before, MRIs, all that other stuff, I may have had a $15 copay, right? And now it's out of control. I mean, I say this all the time. My last surgery cost me almost $10,000 or $6,000, $8,000 because of how bad Obamacare is. I talked to a critical care nurse that has been in this game for, I think, 20 years. Last night, she works in a cardiac unit. She has watched the coverage go through the floor. The patients still get taken care of, but they get billed for it. Actually, they don't get billed for it. Medi-Cal does, because we're in California. If you go to the ER for anything in California and you don't have any medical insurance, they get you on emergency Medi-Cal right away. Who pays for that? The taxpayers, who gets essentially Obamacare. She was telling me when Obamacare was passed, I didn't know this, and she watched this happen. They were going room to room talking to their patients who were in there for critical cardiac issues, telling them that the procedure that they were in for may not be covered anymore because of all the changes in the plans. So Obamacare was a flaming pile of garbage, and everybody knew it. I said this last week, and I think I said it 100 times, if not 200 times. We all knew Obamacare was going to be a disaster when they started it, right? This wasn't a shock to anybody. But it was the process to get them to the single payer system. They want to be like the UK. They want to be like Canada. And I'll tell you right now, that same nurse I was talking to, who is very esteemed in her career and does a lot of trainings and travels and, interacts with a lot of people from all over the country. The amount of Canadians that will come to America and pay cash for procedures, she says, is unbelievable. They'll come all the way down to California, Northern California. Because I said, I knew that happened because Canada Heavy Haul, we've talked about that before off air. But I always thought it was the northern states, Washington, Montana, you go all the way across New York, Massachusetts, like states that were close to the border. No, they'll come all the way down into California to get care and then pay out of pocket for it because it's better than the care they'll get in Canada. That's a reality. That's just a reality. And that's under Obamacare, this flaming pile of disaster that we have. Obamacare will be the big fight. Don't get me wrong. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Obamacare is going to be the biggest fight in the Senate for appropriations. and that is by design. The Democrats were trying to avoid it because they're trying to protect their legacies. You think about how many Democrats who are still in Congress who signed on to Obamacare. Not a single Republican signed on to Obamacare that I can remember. Can anybody in the chat room remember a single Republican who signed it? But all the Democrats did. And a lot of them were either in the House at the time or were senators at the time and are still there. It's their legacy as much as it is Obama's legacy, and they're trying to protect it. Canada Heavy Haul in the chat responding. Trust me, our healthcare system is garbage. I literally went to the doctor this morning for my yearly checkup that it took me 6 months to book. So yeah, you're a year and a half behind, right? Yeah, and we just don't want that. Look, and we've told the stories. I've done the math and I've done the research. You're waiting in the UK, you're waiting 26, 27 hours in the ER for care. Like, we just don't want that. That's just, I mean, I could sit here and beat this drum all night. But that's going to be the fight that's going to happen now. And it's not, I don't think it's not going to go the Democrats' way. Because so many of them have been on the TV the last couple of weeks talking about how bad our healthcare system is in America and how horrible it is and how it needs to be fixed. And I'm sitting there screaming at these clips saying, motherfucker, you're the one who put this into effect. You caused this. Why are you complaining now? Why didn't you complain then when everybody knew it? And you don't tell me. I am not the smartest person in the world. I am certainly not a medical professional. I am certainly not an accountant. And I'm not a policy maker. But when I can look at Obamacare in 2008 with BZ, Clint at the time, all the other shows on our network, and we turned around and said, this will never fucking work. Go look up the old Sackhead shows from when it was passing. We said it. Because of what we read, I know you find out what's in it when you pass it, but we were getting a lot of bits and pieces thrown at us. There was no way it was going to be sustainable. And we knew it was going to collapse. And the Democrats now, I don't know what their bargaining chip is going to be for it. They had one, actually, if they only did SNAP and military pay through the CR, that actually would have been a better deal for them because then at least they had some leverage. So they have nothing now because I'll tell you right now, Fetterman will probably vote with the Republicans. All of these who are in purple states probably going to vote for the Republicans. And I think this vote tonight was the first step down the path of Obamacare finally being lifted off the American people. And it's, I can't tell you enough. Predictions, if they make simple changes, just simple changes, being able to sell across state lines, forcing hospitals to take insurance no matter where you purchase it versus billing you for it and all this other stuff later on, yada, 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 out of network and network, all that shit needs to go away. But you're looking at anywhere between 20 and 40% savings on your premiums. Back to where it was pre-Obama. And if they tighten up on these hospital groups and maybe break a couple of them up, which needs to happen, if they tighten up on these insurance companies, maybe break a couple up because that needs to happen instead of just funneling shitloads of money at them like they're doing right now, we can actually start saving a buck or two. And I know Democrats don't want that because all that extra money takes care of illegals and all the other people. But simple fact of the matter is the American people, the American people want it. I was told last night, Obamacare is a Republican plan they never voted for. Yeah, you know, it's so funny. These are the same people. These are the same people that will tell you that the KKK were all Republicans, right? These are the same people who just completely forget who Senator Byrd was, and they have selective memory syndrome on a level that you cannot possibly comprehend. I know the video is going to be another Chucky Schumer's in trouble, which I'm going to take a break. We'll talk about that afterwards. And this is Senator Mark Kelly. The question was to the effect of, do you still have faith in Chuck Schumer? Listen to this non-answer answer.
Confidence in Schumer. Hey, again, this is, I've been here 4.5 years now, and he's been the leader, and I understand why people look at this and say, well, this was kind of a rough, period.
Understand something. Mark Kelly knew this vote was coming. Mark Kelly is a professional politician. Mark Kelly answers questions like that all the time and has the ability to have very simple, whitewashed, yeah, he's a good guy, or yeah, this wasn't his fault, but if he had confidence in him, he would have defended him. Zero confidence whatsoever in Chuck Schumer. We come back and talk about what's going to happen with Chucky and maybe some other Democrats too. But this right there, that video I showed you right there, all the time in the world, he knew this vote was coming tonight. He had 24 hours. He knew the media was going to ask that because, as Jersey Joe said, there was rumors last night that AOC screamed at Chuck Schumer for the test vote. We'll talk about and get into all that after the break. Be right back here on the Edge of Liberty.
Ever dream of escaping the daily grind? At Escapist Travel and Tours, we make those dreams your reality. From breathtaking adventures to cultural immersions, we offer escapes tailored just for you. Let us take you to places where every moment feels like a new chapter in your life's adventure. Visit www.escapist.travel or call us today at 1-855-885-81776. Your escape awaits.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRN Radio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SA.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, the Edge of Liberty, part 2, right here on the SHI Media Network. Getting caught up in the chat room. Mike Pasqua says it's the yeah about answer in response to Senator Mark Kelly. Yeah, and it should be the yeah about answer. He should have had one ready to go, but he chose not to. That wasn't because he didn't know what to say. He intentionally didn't say anything. 04AMT in the chat. Chuck Schumer is the top 5 people why term limits should have been mandatory 40 years ago. Cannot disagree with that comment, sir, whatsoever. BZ talking to Canada Heavy Haul about his health care, but Canada Heavy Haul, you're supposed to have the finest healthcare system around. That is what they tell us. Yes, that is what they tell us, but it is not true. So before I get into the downfall of Chucky Schumer, and talk about a little bit of today. I have a birthday, Veterans Day is tomorrow, and cover both of those. And in the proper way. But this is just something that today is the anniversary of the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald. And this has been a story, I seem to recall when I was a kid learning about this, we were learning about the Great Lakes region. And we had to listen to the Gordon Lightfoot song that was made. It was a great song. It was really good, folks. He's perfect, and then the shipwreck was recovered in 1995, and now every year, and they had a private memorial every year, but it's growing and growing. We talk about how lousy the internet can be for some things, but this is one of those things that the Edmund Fitzgerald story has really picked up because of social media, because of the internet. People learned more and more, and you look at, I can remember 5 years ago, you'd barely hear anything about it. Now for the last week, all my socials have been full of what's going on with the Edmund Fitzgerald and the video of it and the investigation. We'll never know what happened. It happened in 1975. It likely was a structure failure because it broke into, et cetera, et cetera. But it's a fascinating story. Being the 50th anniversary, the story itself, tragic, the loss of 29 crew members. It's fascinating to me to see other people on the other side of the world who had no idea the Great Lakes could be so dangerous, who had no idea there was these giant ships that were crossing the Great Lakes. And it was carrying iron ore to Detroit from Wisconsin. It was 729 feet long and weighed 13,000 tons dry. And that was its job. It had a captain who was revered as a fantastic captain, and it hit a storm that was unbelievable and I guess not expected, and it went down. But it is part of American history. It's certainly part of sailing and maritime history in America, and seeing other people all over the world start to learn about it, and the shock in their face about how it happened and what happened is pretty astronomical. So if you get a chance and you don't know much about the history of the Edmund Fitzgerald, take a look into it, because it's interesting. It's tragic, but it also led to a lot of changes in the industry for safety that really that are still there today. So check that out. So the end of Chuck Schumer, I wrote an article today on SHR Media in the op-ed section, which you can check out. SHR Media, subscribe, read we're posting a couple times a day, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, who knows how many times a day, a lot. Op-ed, straight news stories. You'll see the videos are linked there. The show story, the show articles are linked there. Everyone's giving us op-eds. We're getting op-eds from all the boys, Mission Ready Men, BZ, of course, Jersey Joe and I. Jersey Joe, and you can find it on our YouTube, but you can also find it under educational tab on SHR Media, is doing these great historical and educational videos. No slant, no opinions. It's just, hey, this is a topic. This is the black and white of it. This is what you need to know. And he does a really good job. So check out SHR Media. Please like and subscribe. You can subscribe to the webpage, just like you can subscribe to wherever you're watching from right now. Please like the episode and subscribe. So with this, with the test vote last night, it was reported that AOC lost her damn mind. And now I had it all set up when I was setting this up, that I was going to talk about the insanity of the progressive left and how they're taking over the party. And they are. I'm not changing that. We'll get into that. Hey, Cosmic Bard's in the chat. Good evening. Thank you, Cosmic Bard. But then I came across this video and my mind was kind of blown, because this was the most intelligent thing that's ever come out of this woman's mouth. And I am, to steal a term from BZ, gobsmacked.
We do know that one of his friends has purchased Dominion. So it's going to be really important for us to educate all states that we can, to make sure that their Secretary of States are like, we don't want the Dominion machines, because I personally believe that ally purchased Dominion so that he could potentially play with the machines, because we know that they're trying to cheat by changing the lines. for the midterms. And I think that they're trying to solidify their cheat potentially with the voting machine.
First and foremost, Jazzy, I'll agree with you. Get rid of Dominion voting machines. Go back to paper. Totally fine with that. The smartest thing you've ever said. But it is amazing to me that the party to the left who told us there was zero ability to cheat when we brought it up when Biden was elected. Cheating is not possible. Cheating on these machines is impossible. And as a matter of fact, you're un-American if you suggest that any of these machines can be hacked. Even doesn't matter. I don't care how much evidence you saw, or I don't care if you watch the entire Georgia State House. What was it, last year, 2 years ago, where they brought in everybody who said, oh yeah, they can be hacked. And then everyone said, no, it cannot be hacked. And now apparently it can be. And who owns things now, according to Jasmine Crockett? Whoever owns things now, as soon as they're politically aligned, their personal political beliefs will now weigh on elections. I was reliably told that those machines supplied were the most secure election in history. Mission ready men. You're 100% right. I was told that too. But why is Jazzy so high on, just herself? And she has been for a while. Well, when you go and do a public event, or when you go and do a public event, and this happens to you, oh, there it is. When you have somebody by the name of Stephanie Miller, who is a Sirius XM lunatic liberal host, run up and kiss your feet, then maybe you'll start to understand why she's so out of her mind. And that's exactly what you're looking at there. Stephanie Miller, who hosts the Stephanie Miller Show Monday through Friday at Sirius XM, Progressive 127. The same person, I am sure, who at one time or another, thank you, Mission Ready Men, said MAGA is a cult, is kissing the foot. And in that post, she said something to the effect of, I did kiss the sneakers of Jasmine for Crockett, and I do worship the ground she walks on. She was lovely about it. But yeah, us wanting to stick to the Constitution, have individual liberty, and supporting the people who 85% of the time try to work in that direction. Some are less. So we're not going to split hairs here. We're the cult. We're the cult because we want individual liberty. We want smaller government, yada, yada, yada. But she's kissing the feet of a human being who has, other than her Dominion comment, the intellectual and intelligence level of a ficus. And that's probably an insult to the ficus. But it's absolutely insane to me. But yes, Jazzy, her side of the aisle, that 20% is now in charge of the DNC. We've said this before. I'll say it again. For the last couple of weeks, all of this was to try to appease them. And what happened? They won in New York City. The social communists did. It's a blue city. It's always been a blue city. It's been a blue city for years. They won in Virginia. Virginia has been majority blue in their voting for a long time. They won in New Jersey. That's just really New York again, just over in Jersey. And now they're overly confident and they are holding out, and they're going to terrorize their own party, including Chuck Schumer. That's why Chuck Schumer held out this long, because of the elections and because they thought that this was going to be a big push for progressivism and socialism. But Bernie Sanders and AOC are now in charge of the Democrats. Hakeem Jeffries he's just been a talking head. He goes on TV and says a whole bunch of things that mean nothing. He tries to seem like a leader. He's not. It's AOC, the bartender, not even a good one. And Bernie, the absolute lunatic communist himself, the original, the OG communist in the Senate, are now running the DNC. And I really wish we had more Democrats that showed up in our chat, because I would like to ask their opinion on it. Because, yeah, the 20%, the college students, the under 30s, all those people are absolutely thrilled about it. But what about the centrists? What about... Oh, why would you T-ball that up for me? Why would you T-ball that up for me, Mission Ready Men? I heard she was actually a barback. See, I just can't help myself. Did you hear that? Or did you hear that she spent a lot of time on her back in the bar? Which one was it? Because both can be true at this point. Yep, everyone, there it is. Chat room Phantom responded appropriately, absolutely immediately. Oh, God. But yes, Chuck Schumer is trying to appease them to hold into power. And I honestly think that Chuck Schumer, maybe even before the fight for the appropriations is over, is going to resign. That is I just think that he's going to go the same way Pelosi did. Look, Pelosi did not leave or did not choose to retire because she's bored of being a representative and making millions of dollars and still, insider trading, all that stuff. No, she chose to retire because the Progressive Party was taking over. She's already lost to them before. Remember when the squad would not stay in line and she didn't know how to control them. And the DNC is now trying to usher in Scott Wiener, who's a super progressive, will fit in unbelievably with all Jazzy and all those people. It's just a regular old idiot party where they'll just sit around talking about how wonderful they are and, how they're going to save the world being communist. And it's all orchestrated, in my opinion, by the man the DNC absolutely porked, which was Bernie Sanders. I think Bernie Sanders is absolutely playing. He's got them all on marionette strings. I think this is years of anger. He's getting ready to get, I'm sure he doesn't have too many more years left, right? And I think he wants to destroy the party that chose Hillary Clinton over him. I think all those years, why do you think he formed this alliance with AOC? Out of all the other members of the House and the Senate that he could have started to bring up and highlight and use, that he could have chose, why did he choose her? Well, the answer is in the chat room. 04AMT said, I put up on the screen, I have a picture of AOC at the doctor's office. The ear inspection flashlight beam goes through her eyes. And that's exactly what Bernie knows too. He's playing the shit out of her. And all the other socialists, communist wing of the party, Mondamis, all the other ones. He's doing something that the Republican Party has not been able to do, which is going to be, I believe, the eventual destruction of the Democratic Party as we know it. Because they're feeding into these progressive lunatics and for no reason. That's the 20% approval rating that Democrats have right now are the progressive lunatics. So instead of trying to right the ship and focusing on everybody else, the other larger portion, the 80% of Democrats that do not support them, i.e. probably the more reasonable, closer left of center, some old JFK Democrats, that party, instead of trying to fix and repair with them, they're appeasing the loudest. The squeakiest wheel is getting all of the oil. And that's all because of Bernie. And I think Bernie is loving the shit out of watching all of these old guard Democrats who are just trying to play the Omni Party. Look, like I said, Bernie's OG. Bernie has always been Bernie. As much as I disagree with him, he at least has always told you who he was. For the love of God, he's the man who took a honeymoon to the Kremlin back when the USSR was still full power. That's who Bernie is. He calls himself a socialist. He's a communist at heart. As I've said before, and other people have said, when they call it the Democratic Socialists, what that just really means is, I know I can't say communist yet because that's going to turn people off. So I'm going to use this word. But as Mondami showed, They want to seize the means of production. They want to seize private property when it suits them. They want to do all of these communist things. That's what they all believe. The Ayanna Presleys, the AOCs, the Ilhan Omars. That's all of that whole group of lunatics. That's what they believe. And Bernie is absolutely, I'm telling you, mark my words, 5 years from now, 6 years, however long it takes, come back and play this tape. When the Democrats split, or you have a large faction of them split away from the Democrats because they're two leftist progressive lunatics, I'm going to say I'm right. And Bernie Sanders was the absolute cause of that. I'm up against the break. We come back. We talk about the birthdays. I know 04 AMT kind of bigfooted it here, but I'll forgive him because he's in chat and I appreciate that. Talk about the birthdays and what's coming up tomorrow, another huge day for our nation, and more right here on the SHI Media Network.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Hello, cheater in the chat. Welcome back to the SHI Media Network simulcast with our good friends over at KLRN Radio. Please do me a favor, wherever you're watching from, like and subscribe. And if you're watching on X, you can hit the like button and then jump over to SHI Media on YouTube, click live, hit the like and subscribe button, and then jump in the chat and join us for the last 18 minutes of the show tonight. That'd be just super duper. The subscription's going up. We're greatly appreciating it. We're doing we have a lot of plans going on here at SHR Media, behind the curtain, so to speak. Sneaky stuff to hopefully you'll like, and we can grow together. And like I said, a lot of articles on shrmedia.com, a lot of good articles over there. So today is the 250th birthday of the United States Marine Corps. Now, I'd like to remind everybody of something very serious and something that most people need to understand. And once I tell you this information, if you did not know it, it will make you understand Marines a hell of a lot better. The birthplace of the Marines were the Tun Tavern in Philadelphia. They were founded in a bar, ladies and gentlemen, which is why just makes the Marines even more awesome. Cheetah, I hope you're feeling better. I really do. I'm sorry to hear about that. Shoot me a DM. I'd like to know what happened. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're on the mend, hopefully. So yeah, the Marines were birthed in a tavern in Philadelphia in 1775, November 10th, which is why today is their birthday. The Marines were also the first in our nation's history to take on Muslim extremism. If you ever listen to the old SHR shows, we talked about, I think, one of the birthdays before. The Marines were sent over to kick the shit out of the Pasha in Tripoli, who were holding our ships hostage and essentially not recognize our right to free travel in international waters, which is why the shores of Tripoli are in the Marine Corps hymn. It's also where they got the nickname Leathernecks, because they used to wear leather bands on the necks to keep from being slashed. That's where Leathernecks is. Does anyone remember what the name of the Bobcat is? Yeah, it's Clyde. Somebody's asking in the chat room, 04AMT, Clyde, if you don't remember, Clyde's the mascot for the SHR media. He is a Bobcat, and he is awesome. From there, they went on. They fought a quasi-war with France, 19th century Mexican-American War, Pacific and Caribbean operations, Caribbean, however you want to pronounce it. I say Caribbean. World War I, they were at Bellawood, and that's where they got the Devil Dog names, because the German soldiers nicknamed the Devil Dogs for how they fought. World War II, again, they were all over the place, but these are just notable ones. Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Palau, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa. Korea, the Chosin Reservoir. If you haven't heard the story of the Chosin Reservoir in Korea, when we're done here, I want you to go to YouTube and look up the Fat Electrician. He's a great military historian, unbelievable guy. He was a veteran himself. He did a whole video on the Chosin Reservoir, and that was just absolutely crazy. Hughes City and Quezon Son in Vietnam, Gulf War, Somalia, Fallujah, and Helmand Province. And yeah, their ethos is first in, last out. Every Marine is a rifleman, Semper Fidelis. So happy birthday to all of our friends in the Marine Corps. And there's no such thing as a former Marine or ex-Marine. They're always Marines. They'll tell you that. Most of them tell you that. And that does roll us into what tomorrow is, which is Veterans Day. It's a day we remember every single human being who put up their hand and took an oath to fight for our country and fight for our freedom and stand for the defense of our country and our citizens. And we thank you. From the bottom of our hearts here at SHR Media, we thank you. It is, I don't care what you did in the military. I hear so many people say, oh, he was just a chef, or he just did this, or he just did that. You raised your hand knowing that at any point you could be called to put your life on the line for this nation. And for that, I thank you. And we thank you as a network. And there will be an article up tomorrow about Veterans Day. There's another article up about the birthday today from SHR Media to the Marine Corps, a birthday letter from us to them, for all of us to them. So please take a time tomorrow to thank veterans, anyone that you know. Thank them for their service. Thank them for their sacrifice. If you have a Marine that's a friend, buy him a box of crayons. Give him something to eat. All of my Marine friends are going to absolutely light me up the next time they see me. But our veterans are truly, they always talk about how small business is the backbone of the economy. Our veterans, our military, is the backbone of our nation, because that is, without them, from the Battle of the Lexington Green all the way through today, without them, without our veterans, without those who served, we wouldn't be here. I would not be able to come on here twice a week for an hour and pontificate and opine and tell dumb stories and try to make you laugh occasionally and try to give you some information if it wasn't for them. We wouldn't be able to write. We wouldn't be able to have our freedoms that we have, because they fought so we could get them, and they fought so we can maintain them. And when the world is called and said, hey, this group needs their asses kicked, our veterans are the ones who always take care of it first, right, wrong, or indifferent. However you feel about wars, however you feel about past wars, we can all sit here and play the politics and you know, do that. But that's not what Veterans Day is about. Veterans Day is about thanking and remembering every single person who stood up to serve in this great, great nation. And it is something that really take time tomorrow. A lot of people get the day off. Take that time to think about that. Take that time when you are surfing on the internet later, when you go to the store tomorrow to buy whatever it is that you want, not what you're allowed to buy, not what the government told you is needed. When you decide where your kid's going to go to school for college, or where you decide what kind of car you're going to buy, that you don't have to wait 10 years and order it ahead and then get 400 government documents to approve it. Yeah, there's some documents you have to do with the government, but that's licensing usually. When you exercise your freedoms, we go to the range. When you exercise your freedoms and you exercise it regularly, you don't even realize how often you exercise it. And yeah, we talk all the time about on this show about how our freedoms are constantly eroded, and we talk about how there are groups out there who want to erode them all the way. You just had a senator, Tim Kaine, was it 2 months ago, tell us that our rights are not natural. People like that, where they want to be able to just absolutely dictate what you can say, how you can say it, where you can say it, and who you can say it about. And like I said, the second protects the first, but the first is the most important. Freedom of press. Freedom of press does not mean that the press gets to run all over the White House and the Pentagon. It means that they can report on the government and against the government if they disagree with what the government's doing. Our freedom of speech, to be able to petition the government, to be able to protest the government, to be able to, and as much as I hate to say it, as long as you're not doing violent things or being destructive or being threatening, even all these leftist lunatics, no King's Day, stuff like that, they have the right to go out there and do that because of our veterans. Even if I don't agree with their cause, I agree with their right to be able to do it, as long as they don't cross those lines. And that's all because of veterans. That's all because of the original veterans, the patriots. There's a reason that this little guy right here, let me make it bigger for you, is our emblem. And why it has been from the founding of SHR Media. Because we know how we have these rights. We know how precious and sacred these rights are. And we know how important it is to protect them, to remain that shining city on the hill, to never be overrun by a foreign or domestic threat, invasion, whatever you want to call it, enemy. And it's because of our veterans. It's because of 18-year-old kids that raised their hand and stayed. And it's just your neighbors, relatives, good friends of mine that all raise their hand. So you and I can sit around and have shows like this. And whether you like my politics or hate my politics, you have to at least appreciate the fact that I have a right to it. And that is because of our veterans. So moving on, I do have a couple more little tidbits that I want to discuss. What do I have? I have about 8 minutes left. Yeah, there's Jazzy getting her foot. A couple things that I get setting. It's not interesting. I love taking a few minutes to beat up Gavin Newsom verbally because he makes it so easy. So what was it? 2 weeks ago, he introduced his new persona that he was a poor black child and he grew up eating all that white bread, blah, 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 and all that horse shit. And then what was it? The interview last week where he turned around and he said, I don't like politicians that lie. And we all just said, are you shitting me of all people? But here's another amazing lie by Newsom. He says this stuff with a straight face. He's in Brazil right now, where they're like trying to worry about climate change, but they chopped down 100,000 trees to build a road and a runway and all that stuff in order to have this event. That's how concerned about climate change are. And they all got on their private jets and flew down there because climate change is important. But here's Gavin talking about how successful he's been at the people in California, or the state of California is.
California has moved away from goal setting. It's not interesting to us anymore. We're already there. We're also at a point where I can also lay claim to this. There's not one goal the state of California has ever set that we haven't achieved and did so early.
He just said that part out loud. First and foremost, we still have a train to nowhere that doesn't even have an ounce of track laid down yet, that we've spilled billions of dollars on, and they're still dumping more money into it. Okay, that goal hasn't been achieved, and it's way over. It's supposed to be done already. Homelessness, Gavin. Homelessness. What do you mean you've achieved every goal that you've set? We still have the highest homeless population in the country. And it's gotten worse since you started dumping millions and billions of dollars into homeless problems in California. Fires. You chose not to mitigate the threat of fires in the forest, not to clean the forests, and it led to these intense, insane fires. And you've lied about it repeatedly. He was also asked today, yeah, he has actually set those goals. I'm thinking he doesn't understand what goals actually means. Maybe it's lost in translation. Maybe he thinks it's the French word, which is goels, which means to fail fucking miserably. He also said, when he was asked today if he was going to run for president in 28, I don't know. I mean, we have to see, we have to kind of see what the party wants and what it needs. And, we're just going to make decisions as it goes. He gave the Gavin answer. And I'm like, dude, you not being sure is like me saying my knees don't sound like broken, dry spaghetti every single time I crouch down. Cut the shit. We all know you're running. Everybody knows you're running. I would actually, but you impulsively have to lie. And I know you haven't declared yet. I get that. But Polymarket has you being, I think it's 39% chance of having you be the Democrats' choice in 2028. You know that. So it's just another lie that Gavin tells. Then that's all he knows how to do. He's amazing. I was trying to get this point across to somebody the other day. Gavin Newsom is exactly like the epitome of what you would draw a swarmy, dirty, filthy politician. Every stereotype about a politician is who Gavin Newsom is in real life, walking around every single day. He talks out of not even both ends of his mouth and his ass. 04AMT in the chat says, I think one of saying is, I may disagree with what you're saying, but I will forever defend the right to say it. Yeah, I agree. Look, the screaming idiots on the left, the progressives, I just can't have the conversation with them anymore. I just get such a headache. I'm just so annoyed. It's not because they're making sense or making points that I can't counteract. It's just because as soon as you disagree with them, they scream like petulant children. But I still have friends who are moderate Democrats who I can have the conversation with. I may disagree with them, but we can have a conversation. I just heard a story last night again at dinner of somebody who was impressed with their friend because he is a Democrat. They've had discussions about politics and they remain civil when he's lost other friends over the politics, especially lately. And how it's a newer thing that's really been a plague on our society over the last, since 2008, really, since Obama. Question in the chat room, is it true that he is Pelosi's nephew? I know he's talking about Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom's aunt, I think, married into the Pelosi family at one point, and then, or maybe it was the uncle, and then they got divorced. He was married to Nancy's sister. That's what it was. But despite that, you look at, I did a whole piece on Gavin not too long ago. You look at who he's run around with his whole life, the Getty family. His father was a appellate judge in California. He was on the California Supreme Court. His father was the lawyer for the Getty family, the billionaire oil company. He grew up with Gordon Getty, who he owns Plump Jack with in Napa Valley, who is a billionaire himself. So yeah, and he hung out with the Feinsteins, the Jerry Browns. That's who he was raised with. He was never a poor black child. He was always a rich upper class kid, no matter what he tries to sell. Rant is over. Just really quick, tonight there was a Turning Point USA rally or event, I should say, off in Berkeley, California, of all places, and it was as peaceful as you can imagine. This is video. There it is. Call for violence. Yeah, that was Berkeley, California, tonight at the Turning Point USA event. So they've learned nothing whatsoever. There were arrests made. I saw arrests made in some videos, and yeah, they're still acting exactly like you expect them to. So that's going to be it for me here, folks. Thank you so much for joining us in chat, so much for writing, so much for liking and subscribing, which I implore that you please do. Thank you to our friends over at KLRN Radio. Every Monday and Wednesday night, I'm here at 8 p.m. Pacific on the Edge of Liberty. You can find this show. You can find me writing over at theloftusparty.com as well as shrmedia.com. Every Monday and Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 o'clock in the East Coast, you have the River Common Sense with Jersey Joe. You can also find him writing on shrmedia.com. Tuesday and Thursday mornings, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon on the East Coast. Mission Ready Men Report with Big E, my friend, my brother from another mother. And you can also find his writings on shrmedia.com. And of course, I would be in a lot of trouble if I didn't mention the senior citizen, the senior guy on the crew. And that's going to be BZ every Tuesday and Thursday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. For Sundays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 on the East Coast. Our friend, the Cosmic Bard, the Lost Wanderer himself, has an amazing show that's on SHR Media's YouTube. If you have a chance, check it out. And we also have some other interesting ads that might be coming here soon. So make sure you stay tuned to SHR Media. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your evening. Be safe.